Hello Classic Crew, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be talking about my first trimester of pregnancy. So Jacob and I recently announced on my channel that we are expecting, and we are so excited. I'm so excited that we finally get to share the news with you, first of all. That's crazy. So let's start there. Before we get into today's video, make sure you're subscribed to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can get notified of all my new videos. And make sure to sign up for my Substack newsletter where you'll get access to exclusive content like my book club and my exclusive podcast. Now, let's get into it. Let's talk about keeping the secret. So during the first trimester of pregnancy, many women make the choice not to share it because there's always a chance of miscarriage in the first trimester. So if you guys have been following me for a while, you'll know that we had a miscarriage back in April. And at that point, we weren't expecting there to be a miscarriage because we had had an ultrasound and we had seen the heartbeat. And so we told people at around 8-9 weeks that we were expecting, and then we lost the baby. So this time around, we were a lot more conservative. We decided to wait until 14 weeks, which is actually technically when you're done with the first trimester. And our doctor was amazing the entire time. He gave us extra ultrasounds so we could check up on the baby. And he was really understanding of us both being kind of worried and anxious the entire first trimester, just because we had had sort of a late miscarriage with the first one. We had had a miscarriage at 12 weeks, but it had been a missed miscarriage. So the baby had stopped growing at 10 weeks. In this pregnancy, because of that, I had been anxious, and I was anxious up until 13 weeks. I mean, I felt like it could happen at any time. Thank God it didn't. The baby looks fantastic, strong, healthy. In our announcement video, I included a clip of the ultrasound where you can see the little legs going, and it is the best thing ever. But keeping the secret from you guys has been so hard. I am somebody who is an open book. I like to tell you guys everything. I like to talk about all my feelings, all my emotions. I think that it's just easier for me to live that way. So keeping this secret was so hard initially. Actually, I got used to keeping the secret after a little while. So now it's weird that we can actually talk openly about it. I'm not used to that quite yet, but it was very difficult initially not to tell you guys, and for a little while in the first trimester, because I was feeling so sick that I wanted to be able to explain why I was acting slightly differently. But there were definitely times that I thought maybe I let on accidentally, or maybe someone had figured it out. Let me know in the comments if you had a sneaking suspicion that I was pregnant. I'd be curious to know. But we did our best to keep it just between us and our families so that, God forbid, something happened, we would have a support system, but we wouldn't have to tell everyone about it until we were ready. Even though the first trimester is really hard for a lot of reasons, and we'll definitely talk about that, I want to talk about some of the highest highs of this pregnancy, which have been the ultrasounds. So we had an ultrasound at 8.5 weeks, and the baby's heart was so strong. We could hear it. It was amazing. And even at 8 weeks, the baby was moving just a little bit, which was really cool. We saw the baby again at 10.5 weeks. That was kind of the real confirmation appointment that everything looked good. And the baby again was moving a teeny bit, and we could hear the heart. And then we saw a final ultrasound, which I personally asked for because I wanted to get sort of a late first trimester ultrasound just so we could confirm everything was good before we told our friends and my subscribers and followers. And in that ultrasound is when we got to see the baby kicking, which was so cool. The baby was moving so much, the doctor had to say, slow down, because the baby was moving and he couldn't get a measurement. The doctor couldn't get a measurement. So it was really exciting and so special. And I can't wait for my next ultrasound, which isn't for a few weeks. I have another appointment coming up, but that appointment isn't an ultrasound appointment. So then we'll schedule our next one, which I think is gonna be the big anatomy scan. If you don't know what an anatomy scan is, it's basically when they measure everything with the baby just to make sure everything looks good and is growing correctly. As of this week, we are 16 weeks along. We use the Pregnancy Plus app, which I love because it shows a beautiful 3D model of the baby and you can see its development. And now the baby really looks like a baby, which is amazing. Honestly, the babies look like a baby for a little while now, but the baby's just getting bigger and stronger, which is really cool. Also, soon I'm supposed to start being able to feel maybe some flutters. I don't know if I felt any yet. I think maybe I have, but I don't know for sure. And I'm looking forward to that so much. I can't wait to feel the baby kick. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. One of the things I've loved is seeing the progression from week to week, the baby growing and seeing what the baby looks like, which is just amazing. I mean, the actual progress of a baby in such a short amount of time, it's mind-boggling when you realize how quickly a baby looks like a baby. It's crazy. And something to note is that when we count weeks in pregnancy, we're actually not counting from conception. We're counting from your last missed period, just because that's the easiest thing to pinpoint. So you're saying that you're 4 weeks pregnant is really saying that you're 2 weeks pregnant. Saying that you're 8 weeks pregnant really means that you're 6 weeks pregnant. So at 6 weeks, a baby looks like a baby, which is amazing and I think is the coolest thing ever. Yeah. Okay, now let's get into my first trimester symptoms. First trimester is really hard. You physically feel really sick. So I've heard that the third trimester is also not easy because you're getting bigger and more uncomfortable. But the first trimester, you're laid out. I mean, you can't do anything in my experience. Some women have an easy first trimester. That was not the case for me. So I had morning sickness. Morning sickness is when you feel sick and it doesn't have to happen in the morning. It can be all day. I did not throw up, but I felt sick pretty much all day. I would feel sick in the evenings, definitely, before I went to sleep. And then I would often feel sick in the morning up until about noon. Early in the pregnancy, I felt sick the whole time. But then as we progressed a little bit, then it was like I was sick till noon and then I was sick after 4. So I had like 4 hours to get anything done. And there was always a chance that that could wiggle around and then I would end up being sick more of the day. So I had even less time to get things done. But I never vomited, which I'm very grateful for. I just felt sick and gross. Another symptom that you guys may be hearing even in this video is breathlessness. I notice it the most when I am doing these videos because I'm just talking and I'm out of breath. I've been out of breath since the beginning of the pregnancy. I think you can probably tell if you go back to some of my older videos that I'm out of breath. That's why. I had brain fog, and that was maybe even worse than the morning sickness in a way. I felt like I couldn't focus on anything. I just had no motivation. I couldn't get any work done. I was not feeling creative. I needed to distract myself because I felt so sick, but even distracting myself didn't really work because I couldn't focus on anything. So that was a not super fun symptom. I went to the bathroom all the time, still going on, but not as bad as early on in the pregnancy. I was in the bathroom all the time. And that's pretty normal apparently, that it doesn't even have to do with the size of the baby yet, it's just your hormones. I had some food aversions. I actually still have some food aversions. They're not terrible, but early on, oh my gosh, meat sounded horrible. There were a ton of foods I really didn't want. And if I thought about them, I would get sick. So mostly what I ate was a lot of fresh things, fresh fruit, fresh vegetables. All of that sounded really good. And grape nuts I had every day. So I talked about how I've been having a lot of grape nuts. That's part of the reason, is because that was something that appealed to me. I remember a friend of mine saying that the first trimester is just survival mode. So if you just view it that way and don't feel bad about the fact that you're not getting as many nutrients or whatever, the baby's gonna get what it needs from your body. So you eat what you can just because you need to be able to get something, but don't blame yourself if that something isn't the best thing for you. That really helped. I also was exhausted. This is something that definitely comes in the first trimester where I was sleeping, taking naps, 2.5-hour naps every day. I really just did not feel great, so sleeping it off was a wonderful way to pass the time, and also I was exhausted. I couldn't do anything. And I didn't even realize how bad it was until I'm in the second trimester. now I get tired, but I get tired at night. I'm not needing to sleep during the day. I get sleepy at night around 9 o'clock, starting to get tired. But the rest of the day, I'm like, I'm up, I'm ready. And that is such an improvement. One weird symptom that I got, and I actually learned this one from another YouTuber, Delilah Lopke. She has a channel called Lopke's Life. I love her channel. You should definitely check it out. She talked about how she had an eye twitch when she got pregnant. And I started getting an eye twitch, I think even before I knew I was pregnant, but also during the first trimester. I really noticed that my eye would twitch and I couldn't control it. It was just random. I still sometimes get it, but not super frequently. But the first trimester was hard emotionally. And that was another thing you get mood swings for sure in the first trimester. I was up and down, but I was definitely very anxious. And that was for a good reason. After what had happened the first time, I was just worried about things. And that anxiety was a little bit difficult in the first trimester. I tried to not worry as much as I could have, but there were times that I still worried. So those were my first trimester symptoms, pretty standard. I will say that I didn't mind. I was actually really grateful to have those first trimester symptoms because I knew what could happen when those symptoms went away. In the first pregnancy, I stopped having symptoms at 10 weeks, which was when the baby stopped growing. So having symptoms for a while made me feel more secure and made me feel more confident in the pregnancy. I knew that the baby was doing well because I felt so bad. And something I would say to Jacob when I was feeling really sick is baby's working so hard because it put things in perspective for me. I'm not trying to say that pregnancy is easy, but it is so worth it. And when you've had a miscarriage, you realize how much you depend on these really negative symptoms to actually tell you that you're having a healthy baby. Now, there are some women who have completely symptom-free first trimesters and have beautiful, healthy babies. My mom is one of those women, but I liked having kind of a symbol that the baby was doing well. So now I want to talk about some products that I used and loved in my first trimester that I thought were really helpful. So the first thing I want to talk about are their morning sickness drops. I'll put a picture on the screen here. They're fantastic. You can get them at Target. They're really inexpensive and they really help. They taste like candy, but something about it just really helps soothe morning sickness when you're traveling or even just in your house. I really liked those when I was feeling my most sick, and the flavors are delicious. I also use the relief band to help with my morning sickness, and it did help. It sends pulses through a specific pressure point on your wrist, and that's supposed to help with nausea, and it really helped me. I used that a lot in the first trimester when I was feeling sick, and it didn't always take away my symptoms completely, but it definitely lessened them, and there were times that it did remove my symptoms. So it was definitely something I depended on in the first trimester. As far as clothes, comfy dresses. I was wearing dresses that did not touch my body. I am more comfortable physically now than I was in the first trimester because I was so nauseous and anything touching my torso made me very sick. So I was wearing clothing that was baggy and loose and flowy. And if you look on my Instagram, I think you'll probably notice that I was wearing a lot of like nightgown dresses just because I didn't want anything touching me. And that was great. Target was a really good place to find dresses like that. So definitely depended on that to keep me comfortable and also to keep me comfortable in the heat because it was summer when I was in my first trimester. Only two more things. So sleeping headphones, I will link these in the description box below. I had some kind of insomnia in the first trimester, not really bad, but I would wake up really early and I wouldn't be able to fall back asleep. So having a set of sleeping headphones, which are like flat and they're almost like a headband, was really helpful because I could put those on, put on a podcast or a playlist or something and listen to something while I was resting. And then if I fell asleep, I wouldn't have to take them out or it wouldn't be uncomfortable. And I really liked having that as something I could depend on because otherwise you're waking up your husband when he's in bed next to you while you're trying to play something. And that's way less of a good idea. The last thing I wanted to mention is sunscreen. So I try not to use chemical sunscreens when I'm pregnant. I use mineral sunscreens. Even my makeup doesn't have chemical sunscreens in it. I know everyone has different things that they get like attached to during pregnancy. Like, I'm not gonna wear perfumes, or I'm not gonna wear chemical sunscreen, or I'm only gonna eat this, I'm not gonna eat that kind of thing. But for me, chemical sunscreen was something that I was like, oh, I read somewhere I shouldn't use this, so I'm gonna try and find an alternative. So I found this CeraVe mineral hydrating sunscreen, something like that, with a tint. And I use that on my skin to just give myself a base. It has 30 SPF and I really like it. And I use that every day. And it's been a wonderful replacement for my normal sunscreens. Mineral sunscreens are tricky because they're sticky and they leave a white cast. But because this one's tinted, it's really much better for my skin and it doesn't make me look like a ghost. I also have a CeraVe one that is just a normal sunscreen that I put on days when I don't want to have like any tinted moisturizer on. And that one does have a white cast, but it's not terrible. So I use that one too. But that is it for my first trimester video. I'm so excited that we can talk about this finally. I will be doing updates week by week on my vlogs, so you can definitely follow me there to see, okay, what's Abby up to on week 19, you know? And you can see what I'm doing. We can see a little progression of the baby bump too. And there's also gonna be just a ton of other content on my channel, normal content, my stuff talking about how to be a classic woman, but also now pregnancy content, motherhood content, that kind of stuff. So I'm really looking forward to sharing that all with you. Make sure to leave a comment below. What was your first trimester like? Or if you're not pregnant, what's something that you learned about pregnancy in this video that you hadn't heard before? Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already and hit that notification bell. If you haven't subscribed to my Substack newsletter, go ahead and do it because you will get access to a ton of exclusive content. My book club, my exclusive podcast, submitting questions for live stream Q&As. It's awesome over there. So make sure to sign up and I'll see you guys in my next video.